This is a story that I actually wrote at 3 a.m. the night before I had to read it, and it was inspired by the sound of a vending machine whirring far away. This is noises. Mine is a life of disturbed silence, of regulated machines that function intermittently throughout the day. In the morning, I sit in my old plastic kitchen chair and look out the window. But it's hard to get a clear picture because the heater is always running. The rooms all around quake and sing as hot air pushes through to the floor and ceiling vents, dancing inside the shafts which shake. It causes the glass in the windows to rattle violently, and I have to get up to bang my fists against the walls. I can't hear the birds over such a racket. At night, the dehumidifier switches on in the basement. When I get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I can hear a gentle, constant inhaling breath that echoes up the stairs. It is the only sound I can hear just then, and to me it is the sound of tranquility and calm. Sometimes I just stand for a minute in the doorway and listen. Eventually, my legs get cold and I go back to bed. The humidifier in my bedroom doesn't work, and just as I begin to lose consciousness, I can feel my old lungs sticking together and I panic. Then the heater turns on noisily, and I am too bothered to worry about my body anymore. These noises keep me awake and alive. Sidebar, I should mention this is a fiction piece. On the first floor, across the hall from the bathroom, there's a small linen closet. My late daughter Lynn came by a year ago and dismantled the shelves for me, something I'm no longer capable of doing alone. Dad passed some time ago, she reminded me. You knew he wouldn't be around forever. It won't take up much room, she assured me. I'll help you get it set up and all that. You're going to need some assistance, and there's only so much you can do around the house without my help. With that, she placed an order for me. It arrived 3 weeks after she made space for it. The delivery men helped her open the box and turn it on. Lynn clapped her hands together and pointed out how human it looked, how friendly and non-threatening it was for a machine. She turned it on and suggested we give it a tour of the house. She wanted me to introduce myself to it, but I refused. I sat in the kitchen while she showed it around. After a while, Lynn had to leave. She stood in front of the door with me to say goodbye. Mom, she began, I don't want you to be afraid of it. In a way, it's just like any other machine you've ever had, like your phone and your computer. But it's more than those two. And I will be coming to visit every week to make sure you're all right. But you need to work together, because it is here to help you do whatever it is you want to do. It's here to make life comfortable and enjoyable. I don't want to worry about you any more than I already do, she said with a smile and a hug. She left, and I was alone with the machine. I immediately turned it off. The first 2 months, I turned it on only when my daughter came to visit. Its eyes switched on first before the rest of it, 2 blue screens that glowed like night lights from within the closet. Then there was a happy chime, and the machine looked up at me with 2 pixelated pupils. Good morning, it would say, if I turned it on before noon. My reply was always something like, can you do the dishes? And it would say, yes, and it would do the dishes. I'd watch it scrub my glassware for a while before the loud vents distracted me. The first time I got up to hit the wall, the machine stopped washing and turned in my direction. Is something wrong, Hannah? It asked with an inquisitive tone. I ignored it and kept hitting the wall until the banging stopped, until the side of my hand was as sore as I felt. I hated the way it said my name, that robotic voice digitally pronouncing the 2 syllables like some computer program for phonetics. It would always address me by name, always asking if it could help me with anything. More often than not, I just turned it off right then and there, irritated with its presence. I'd drag it back to the closet, since it weighed about as much as a vacuum, and close the door. After that, I could usually get some quiet until the ice maker in the fridge stirred to life. About 4 months passed since that thing had entered my house. Lynn never missed a meeting, constantly stopping by to make sure I hadn't destroyed myself or the machine. Every time she stopped by, something was off about her. I could tell Lynn was sick before she found out. These days, there are all sorts of cures and treatments for every possible ailment, but she found out too late. Her heartbeat had been growing weaker, and her breath was already very shallow. She never made time to go to the doctor. She always came over to visit, always ignoring my concern and continuing to work, choosing her weekly chat with me over her own health. And then she changed the conversation to Maxwell, the machine, asking if he was doing all right, as if it were her brother or something. It was incredibly stressful having to discuss the trivial antics of my dishwasher, but it made her happy to hear that I was taken care of. The vents woke me up, as they'd always done the day Lynn died. When I went to the bathroom, I noticed that Maxwell was awake. I suppose that I had forgotten to turn it off the previous night, sometime after Lynn left. It had cleaned the entire kitchen and vacuumed the living room without waking me up. Later, I learned that from the doctors that the bots are always connected to the company satellite, always online, even when their main unit is switched off. It knew that Lynn had passed away quietly during the night, probably as soon as the time of death entered the computer. The machine didn't say a word to me in the morning, nor had it even attempted to wake me up as soon as it knew. It just handed me a piece of paper with the typed message, "Call Dr. Raspin," followed by a phone number in bold. I had it call him for me as I sat in my robe in the living room. I offer you my condolences, but hopefully it will come as some consolation that it happened in her sleep, which is considered the best way to go. She was at peace when she passed, the doctor explained. I don't know if I said anything in response. I just cried. And every now and then I'd look up from the phone to see the machine going about its business, as if nothing had happened. It moved the garbage cans, it dusted the shelves, it washed all the plates in the house and did the laundry. It wouldn't stop moving. It couldn't take a moment to stop and grieve with me, to lament and pray. It just kept going. It just kept making noise. All that battery-powered, busybody energy, the clack-clack of stacking dishes, its every mechanical footstep. It was all noise, and it drove me crazy. I hung up the phone, angrier than I'd been in a long time. I found the folding chair in the corner of the kitchen, the metal one, and with a sudden rush of adrenaline, I raised it over my head and brought it down upon the machine. It crumpled under the force, dropping the ceramic mug it was washing onto the floor. I hit it again and again until my fury subsided and the burst of strength left me. The metal chair crashed behind me, scratching the floor as it landed. I collapsed into my plastic chair and watched as the machine twitched, its entire body short-circuiting and shutting down. An hour after it stopped moving, I pulled it back into the closet. And now I stand before the closet once again. A long time had passed before I decided to look at the machine again. It sits in a heap on the ground, leaning against one wall. One of the eye screens is cracked, and there is a large dent on the back of the head. Its right arm hangs dislocated from its shoulder, connected by a series of gray and red wires. It doesn't look that poorly damaged, so I turn it on. A loud whirring sound came from its chest. I'd probably knocked some of its internal structure out of place, and its unbroken eye turned on. The happy chime, now a little off key, sang just as it always had. The machine looked up at me with its one good eye. "Good morning," it says slowly. It also mentions, "I am damaged internally. Would you repair me?" To which I reply, "Maybe later." It tries to stand up, and I have to pull it up a bit. It takes its working arm and pushes the unhinged one back into its socket, but that is all it can do as far as self-repair. When it walks, I notice it has a slight limp. I can hear the pistons inside its hips as they struggle to trigger each move. The machine stands for a bit in the doorway of the kitchen, and then it turns and looks at me. It doesn't seem to bear any malice at all for what I'd done to it a few months prior. "I remember," it begins, "that Lynn had passed away. How are you feeling, Hannah?" My forehead throbs as it says my name. I hate how it says her name, too. I open my mouth to speak just as the heater kicks on and roars from the depths of the basement. I throw up my arms and curse, but before I can bring my fists down upon the plaster once again, the machine beats me to it. With its newly attached right arm, it hammers against the wall in a precise and rhythmic way. When the banging stops, it staggers over to the basement stairs and goes down to look at the heater itself. It comes back up after a few minutes and says, "I will have that unit replaced. Do not worry about it anymore. Is there anything else I can do for you?" I look at the broken eye, unsure how to respond. I end up telling it all about the other machines in the house that make noise, and one by one, it fixes them all. It tightens the bolts that loosely shiver and insulates those that were inherently noisy, like the ice maker. It repairs, then moves my humidifier to outside my room and always changes the water when I need it to. I never again hear or feel the walls tremor from the ventilation shafts. I awake to the chirping of birds for the first time in years. I don't turn the machine off anymore. The only sound I asked it to keep was the dehumidifier in the basement. I had the machine itself shipped back and restored to like-new condition, except there was always something about its hips which creaks with every step. I can hear it squeak as it walks down the hallway and into the kitchen. Sometimes it does the dishes, and sometimes I've already done it before it arrives. I still don't like its voice, but I tolerate it. Thank you.